Ryan Reynolds and Shawn Levy might be two of my favorite creative heads working in Hollywood right now. Shawn Levy just got done making Free Guy. Ryan Reynolds also just got done giving us Free Guy, and now we have a brand new film from them coming to Netflix called The Adam Project, which is the perfect modern era Amblin movie. If you know what Amblin is, you, sir, are awesome. If you don't know what Amblin is, that's okay. Look it up. You'll be like, oh, that's the type of movie we're getting? What's going on, buddy? Welcome back to a brand new movie review. Today we're going to be discussing The Adam Project, once again starring the likes of Ryan Reynolds and as well as Walker Scobell. And it's kind of a 13 going on 30 sequel because we have Mark Ruffalo and Jennifer Garner playing a couple. We also have the likes of Zoe Saldana and Catherine Keener. And this is about a time-traveling pilot who teams up with his younger self and his late father to come to terms with his past while saving the future. Again, this is directed by Shawn Levy, a director that I very much like, and I was so pleasantly surprised by this movie because Free Guy I truly enjoyed, and Shawn Levy's previous directorial effort, of course, Real Steel, was also awesome. So anytime Shawn Levy comes out with a new project, I'm automatically going to be there. But the biggest thing for me was this cast and this entire concept of being a younger version of Ryan Reynolds teaming up with a older version of Ryan Reynolds to take on time travel and all sorts of that insanity, while also at the same time having a message about their late father being a part of this, all played by Mark Ruffalo. And for me, you think, okay, that's going to probably lead to some emotional experiences, and it absolutely does. This movie is an emotional roller coaster that struck me in the heart and kicked me down a well and said, you're gonna cry. And I did. I got emotional, and I'm very fortunate enough to still have my father in my life, and I can't imagine how people are going to feel watching this movie who have maybe lost someone that important to them. Either their father, their mother, or someone of that was maybe a father figure to them. And I feel like The Adam Project excels in that divine. And that's something that brings to life such an Amblin feel. Because when we look at E.T., it's a movie that, yeah, it's about a kid and an alien, but it's also about a movie that deals with the messaging and themes of loneliness. In this movie, yes, has all the fun flair of the action and time travel and sci-fi elements, but at its core, this is a movie on how to deal with loss and grieving. So many different core components that really much hone in on that, and we're going to be discussing all of those very shortly. But I do want to get your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section. Are you excited for The Adam Project? Have you heard of it? Or do you like Ryan Reynolds and Shawn Levy? Let me know down below, as well as making sure to hit that like and subscribe button, because I love talking movies and TV over here. So if you are also in that same camp of loving talking about movies and TV, you are certainly in the right place. I guess that really does start me with my biggest pros. Again, that Amblin feel that you have. This does feel like an early 80s sci-fi feature in so many different realms and possibilities. And it's actually not just because of the messaging and the themes, which that's actually where I do want to start with. I already kind of started on that conversation, but one of the big core things is there's two very important scenes in here. Maybe three. But the two off the top of my head that I really want to mention is there's one scene between Ryan Reynolds and Jennifer Garner. And it's all in a bar, and it's so subtle, but so important. And it's one of the least flashiest scenes in the movie, but as you're watching it, you're like, holy shit, it's emotional. But it also makes you kind of look at, like, how are you dealing with your grieving, and how do you feel like you should be? And I feel like this is going to go a long way for not just parents, but kids to really much see that, as well as diving into the other moment, which was between Mark Ruffalo and Ryan Reynolds and Walker. It's one of the very last moments that honestly hit me like a train. And in that moment, I was like, dear God, save me. Shawn Levy's directing in those moments was so quiet and subtle, and he actually let these actors speak for the scene, not just the situation that they were in, and that is something to very much give a big gravitas to, which now I want to start talking about Ryan Reynolds for a second, because I love Ryan Reynolds. I love Deadpool. If you can't see, I have like a little Deadpool figure of him always sitting next to me, and there's something about Ryan Reynolds that I've always adored as an actor, but over the last, 10 years, he's kind of pretty much done the same shtick. Which, again, I think is a lot of fun, but I do miss when he does do something like Buried, where it's a little bit more serious, and I've been kind of hoping that he would go down in that realm, and thankfully, while The Adam Project does not get rid of his shtick, and he still continues it, it's the best version that he's done of it since the original Deadpool. And I say that because it is very much an emotional performance and something that you can tell is coming from his soul and his heart as well as what it is. And while his shtick is there and it's very hilarious, it also makes for a lot of great poignant pieces to discuss the grieving process. And I loved what he was able to bring here. And Walker Scobell is a phenomenon. I have no idea how they found someone who exactly represents Ryan Reynolds as a 12-year-old. Like, that is exactly Ryan Reynolds as a 12-year-old. Like, if you told me, like, if we went back in time and you picked someone, I would believe that it's him. He's so good, and I have seen some interviews where he's discussed that, like, I guess he's watched Deadpool 40 different times before even getting casted in this movie. And you can tell that he's just learned those nuances as someone who also loves Deadpool and has done some fun impressions in the past of Ryan Reynolds, which I could not even do now, not even to the stance that Walker was able to. You do learn those, like, little ticks of his, and I just found his performance to be really good, and again, in the emotional moments, to be emotional. There are two other important actors that I haven't really discussed yet, and that's Jennifer Garner and Mark Ruffalo, the 13 Going on 30 sequel that we never thought we would get, because this one's a sci-fi time-traveling adventure. And they are both excellent. I don't think they have so much to do, but when they are in this movie, it is vastly important for the story itself, and I loved them. Loved them. And I'm trying to stay away from spoilers because they do have some of the most spoilerish scenes, but I really dug what they were able to touch in here. And Zoe Saldana is also in here. She is a goddess of all, and I just love when she pops up into these things. And she also, again, this is an emotional roller coaster because even when it has nothing to do with the father-son element, there is still stuff to be talked about within messaging, grieving, and what could possibly change because it is time travel. High concept that at times it might lose you along the way of what is this kind of time travel going to be? Is it more realistic? Is it not? Is it something different than we've ever seen before? And the Adam Project touches in on that, and Zoe Saldana does play around in there that field as well. And while she is a badass in this movie, she has an emotional moment with Ryan Reynolds as well that honestly, again, hit me in the heart, and whoever you're watching this with, it's probably going to hit you as well. I guess that's another concept to talk about, is the time travel. Does it make sense? Is it confusing? I found it to just be the bare enough. Like, you understood it enough to where you're like, okay, I could buy this, but it's not too confusing. And some movies kind of take it into that way where you're like, okay, I don't get this. But thankfully in this one, it doesn't spend too much time sitting there trying to explain what it is. It just kind of goes forward and lets you kind of learn as you play around in the movie. Honestly, really fascinating because I don't think we've seen a lot of movies with this type of time travel, so I dug it. Last thing I do want to talk about when it comes down to my pros is the action. Now, I really like how Shawn Levy shoots action, and here I think it's some of the better moments of it. It kind of does have a reminiscence of certain Star Wars and very flashy, like one-take moments with the camera and the way that it's edited, and I thought it was very fluid and awesome, even if it doesn't have some of the greatest action moments of all, because I don't think this movie relies on it. It's there, it's a lot of fun, and I dug it overall. This is where I do want to come down to my cons, because while I think this is an incredible adventure, there are some things that held it back from being that perfected masterpiece that I'm sure a lot of people are wondering if it is. It is a perfect Amblin movie, but a lot of Amblin movies were not perfect, but they are childhood classics, and I could definitely see the Adam Project maybe coming down in there for certain generations to today. Like, if I had a kid and they watched this movie 20 years from now, they might be like, oh, like to their next kids or whoever, they might be like, oh, did you ever see the Adam Project? No? You gotta see that. For me, there's a couple things that hold this movie back. One, the pacing. It is so fast at times, while again, moving along and getting it through. At times, it kind of did lose me within certain story beats, and I wish it would have sat on a couple different elements a little bit longer, especially when it comes down to the villain, because again, I did dig what they were doing in here, but I expected something a little bit stronger in the pacing. Again, fast-paced, which some people will love, but there's certain moments where I think you needed to settle on that moment a little bit longer. And the last thing I want to say is some of the production design I felt like was a little bit cheap in here, and it just feels like it was made on a sound studio. Now, I could be completely wrong, maybe it's just the way that they shot the movie, but as I was sitting there, it kind of did take me out of the experience in certain moments, and it just felt a little bit cheesy in that realm where I was sitting there, I was like, this is clearly not a forest. Like, this clearly feels like a sound stage, which is very rare when I actually notice that. And again, maybe I'm completely wrong. I do know they shot a lot of this in Canada, but I don't know. Like, some of the moments just felt like a little bit took me out of the moment. Like, I could tell that was CGI, or I could tell this is a soundstage. Certain things like that. To be honest, the Adam Project is, again, that sequel to 13 Going on 30 that you always wanted. What an incredible, thrilling adventure that took me back to the early 80s sci-fi features that contains a charm that is almost irresistible, that we don't get too much of. The movie will leave your heart and all of it in an emotional wreck with the way that it handles grieving and all of that things. And I think that's what really makes this a perfect Amblin movie. It's adventurous, it's fun, but it'll also make you an emotional wreck by the end by teaching you a message on how to grieve and how to mourn. It's something that I feel like a lot of us do need to understand and kind of go through. And I think Ryan Reynolds' performance in here is great. Walker's great, Mark Ruffalo's great, Jennifer Garner's great, Zoe Saldana's great. I would have liked a little bit more from the villain overall and some of the pacing that does keep this movie from going a little bit too fast where it should have slowed down in certain moments, but I love this movie. I loved it, even though I do think there is a couple things that do hold the movie back overall. So bravo to Ryan Reynolds and Shawn Levy. I was never on the camp of Shawn Levy doing a Deadpool movie, but after this one, I would like that, because I think what the first Deadpool movie got down so well is Deadpool's relationship with his love interest, and I really hope they actually bring that back in the third movie. I know I'm getting off topic, but I think Shawn Levy would be able to do that in a really high light. So overall, I'm going to give the Adam Project a B+. This is the perfect Amblin movie to come out in the modern era, and I think a lot of you guys are going to absolutely enjoy this. Bring the tissues, I can promise you. Other than that, guys, thank you so much again for watching this. Hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know down below your guys' thoughts on the movie. Head on over to Sandwich on Films on how to see films early, because we do a lot of fun giveaways over there. And of course, until next time, stay classy.